I began to really decondition and really come back to the truth of who I am. And let me just say, it wasn't a pretty journey. I cried a lot. There's been many nights where, you know, I've cried and I have really questioned, you know, my own path and all of these things. But I've truly come to a place of peace and really alignment. And a lot of that has to do with all the deconditioning work that I've done. So cue human design. So I share my story with you to say, like, it's so like this. And so until you can really find those things that feel really authentically like you're passionate about and feel really aligned and you feel confident in, you know, whatever it is you're doing, then you know you're on the right path. But sometimes it takes a fair bit of deconditioning to get there. But I want to say how possible it is. And the reason I'm doing this masterclass for free is because, you know, so many people spend a lot of money on readings, and a lot of the time, and I have done this in some sessions myself, where I spend some time helping people understand the basics. And I feel like that's not fair, because a lot of this stuff you can find on Google, but I also understand not everyone wants to sit on Google and spend, you know, how much time researching. They just want to condense it in a, you know, 1 hour masterclass and so that's why I'm doing this. And this is a resource that will be available for you forever. You can come back to, and it's all here for you. So that, you know, when you do decide to dive deeper or, you know, maybe do a reading or whatever it is, you have the basics already. So now you can really focus on the parts of your own, you know, life and chart and things that you want to really focus on deconditioning, so you can start to transform, so you can start to have those results. So cue human design. What is it? What is human design? So human design brings together principles of ancient and modern sciences. So I want to be really clear that human design is not a belief system. It is really a system, and it brings together the I Ching, astrology, Kabbalah, the chakra system, and quantum physics. It is really a modern science, and it is a system. Like I said, it is a map to take you to really collapse the time. It's like, think about this, like life could be, you could take a really long path, or like you could take the really long way to where you want to go. And before human design, that's probably what people had to do. There's a lot of trial and error. But human design can really be that map that shortcuts that path for you, so that you can begin to live a life that's more fulfilled and satisfied. And that's truly aligned for you much, much faster. And so that is the power of human design. So on the practical level, human design shows you where and how to access your body's consciousness. So it really is a path and a map to your body, and it's a decision. It helps you make decisions that are correct for you. And so, and ultimately that will lead you to your true self, because how many times have we made decisions that just we knew weren't correct? And we could say, oh, like I didn't follow my intuition. It's like, yes, but why? Well, your human design can really help you start to pinpoint the reasons why you're making certain decisions, and then help you make better ones. So when you aren't living as your true self, it's really impossible for you to lead a truly fulfilling life. So your path to greatness and ultimately a much more fulfilling life will unfold naturally and effortlessly when you follow your strategy and authority. And we're going to get into that. And your human design is calculated based on your birthday, your time, and the place you were born. So if you haven't already, like if you haven't actually, I know some of you know what your design is, but if you haven't, and you've been, you know, this is really the basics and really getting started, you can go, I would recommend either one of these sites. But when you're first starting also, I would recommend downloading your human design chart from both sites, because sometimes and just making sure your birth time is absolutely accurate, and just comparing what each, like that they're both, you know, the same. Because sometimes I have downloaded my human design chart and like, you know, a certain gate has been different or something's been different. And so just make sure that you kind of align both and see that they're all the same gates and they're all the same channels and everything's the same. And then, you know, that's definitely your chart. and they're both free, by the way. So yeah, feel free to do that today if you want to just, use it as a guide while I take you through everything. So common myths and misconceptions. I want to make this really clear before I, start diving into the real stuff. So some common myths and misconceptions about human design. That it's, some kind of philosophy or a theory. It's not. It's a science and it's a system, and it's really the most accurate thing that I've ever come across in my life. And trust me, I've done a lot of things. Like I've tried a lot of things. Like I studied astrology for a while too, and it's like 10 times more accurate. So, and while astrology is amazing too, but this is really some magical stuff. And it is based on all of those, those systems like the I Ching and quantum physics. So you can really trust that it's correct. That you need to be an expert at human design to live your design. Totally not true. Stereotyping. So, you'll see on Instagram, there's a lot of stereotyping about the different types. And while that's very marketable and it's fun, it's like, it's like when astrology, when they're like, oh, you're a Leo, you're like this, or if you're a Pisces, you're like this. Like it's funny and it's relatable. But I would just be careful of stereotypes, because the point of human design is not to put you in a box, it's to expand you. So whenever you feel like it's limiting you in any way, cut it straight away. Like human design says Leo. Okay, so astrology, if you think of astrology, I'm a Leo, my sun sign is a Leo. It's, regarded like Leos, and like if my partner was to be a Leo, that we wouldn't be a match. Like that's how stereotyping can be. And my partner, Paulie, he is a Leo and he's my soulmate and we get along like a house on fire. So it's like, just be careful of the stereotypes. If it puts you into a box, you just discard it, like throw it away, and really use your intuition there. And just use your common sense, I would like to say. Okay, there is definitely a strong human design community who believes, human design, they take a really kind of dogmatic approach. And again, I just don't have that kind of personality. I grew up also religious, so anything dogmatic, I just immediately kind of zone out. I love human design as a system, as a tool, as a guide, and it's amazing. It's brought me so much amazing growth and transformation, but I never ever want to use it as like some dogmatic system that it's like, well, because you have this in your chart, you can't do this. Like, no, we don't ever want to use human design in a dogmatic way. It's simply a beautiful system for growth, expansion, and, deepening our self-awareness and helping us have and live a more fulfilling life. A few of the other myths about each of the types. As I go through the types, you'll begin to understand what this means, but the myths are: projectors have no energy, not true. Generators are supposed to build someone else's dream, not true. Manifestors are aggressive, not true. Reflectors don't know who they are. Look, if we're deep in our conditioning, we may have experienced some of these things, but they aren't true. And so the more that they're just myths. They're just kind of things that people throw around, just like, we stereotype things. Like they're just not true. So again, we don't want to limit ourselves with this system. Okay, and before I go into full teaching mode, the key to living in alignment with your design, so whatever you learn here today, we can really get into our heads and we can really start to overthink. Trust me, I'm like the biggest research nerd. But the key to really, it's not about how much you know, it's about actually living your design, which is the more scary part, because we have to let go of all our fear and we have to really live our truth. And that's not always easy, especially in a world that is still kind of awakening in a lot of ways. So the key to really living in alignment with your design is your intuition. So like, remember, whenever it feels limiting, throw it out. It's a journey. We're on a journey of expansion. And so trust your intuition always, above any teaching, above anything I say here, anything that just doesn't feel right for you, trust your intuition on that. And also just use your emotional intelligence. So what I mean by that is like, if we, as human beings, we have shadows and we tend to judge. We can judge things, or we can start to compare ourselves, especially with human design people. Like, or when I first learned I was a manifesting generator, I was like, oh, why can't I be a projector? Because all my best friends are projectors and I just really get along with them. And I actually thought I was one before I ever, deconstructed my chart. But use your emotional intelligence and just know that you are so divinely, uniquely designed exactly how you are. And the more that you can fall in love with yourself, the more that you truly start to maximize your potential and just, live in alignment and live a really fulfilled life. So use your emotional intelligence. Whenever you start to fall into judgment mode or comparison mode, just really bring it back to the soul and be like, I am a divine emanation of God. So use that. So, okay, let me just see if everybody's on board. Everything's on track. You guys all, I haven't heard that phrase, get along like a house on fire. Haven't you? Maybe it's a really Australian thing. Get along like a house on fire. Yeah. It's a weird phrase, isn't it? I don't even know. It's an Australian thing. Okay. Guys are all on board. Yes, amazing. Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. This is super exciting. So this is the chart. This is the body graph. This is what you're going to be looking at when you type in your chart. This is exactly what it looks like. On this side is the personality side. And this is really our conscious side. This is what we are conscious of. This is who we think we are in the world. This is who we portray and express outwardly, and it's just who we think we are. This side of your chart is the design side, which is really unconscious. It's the unconscious part of us. So it's actually how we're uniquely designed, but we're not totally aware of it. And so as you start to learn about the different gates in your chart, the different channels, the different ways that you are uniquely designed, then you'll start to really go, oh, you might start to awaken to some aspects of your design that you haven't really turned all the way up, and they probably could be turned all the way down, or they could be fears or triggers that are actually holding you back from becoming your true self. So our personality, there's like probably a lot less resistance on this side, which is like, for example, there's just a lot less resistance to this. Oops, sorry. I don't know how that got there. You'll notice that there's a lot less resistance to this side of your chart. And this is really where all our fears, unconscious, subconscious, and triggers and all that live. And so once we start to decondition all the aspects of our chart, now we really start to amplify our design, which is where you start to see the real magical things start to happen, especially in business, if we're talking about business, but also in your life. The decisions that you start to make, and you start to see people have, crazy phenomenal results and just become so magnetic, and things shift and change so quickly. It's because they're really living in alignment with the design. And you have to remember that your design will go against pretty much everything that you've been taught. And also, especially if we're talking about in the context of business, it goes against everything in the traditional paradigm. And as you start to know and understand your unique design more, it's going to start to make a lot more sense. But you'll also feel way more empowered to trust yourself and come back to the truth of who you are. So this is how I have the next couple of hours planned. Oh, wow, it's already been like 50 minutes. Okay, let's try and get through this as quickly as possible. And at the end, we can just go into a Q&A, and any questions that you have, we can dive right in. So this is how it's going to go. We're going to go over the types, the strategy, the not self theme and the true self theme, your authority, the importance of the incarnation cross, and the profiles. These are really the basics. These are really everything that you will see when you download your chart. These are the main things. There is more, but I'm going to just keep it to the basics today. Otherwise, we could be here all day. So I'm not going to go so deep into every single one because we have limited time. But again, remember, this is basically everything you need to know to get started. So there are 5 unique human design types. The types are really the energy blueprints. And as you get more familiar with each of the types, you're going to actually start to notice, it in people. And it's really, really cool. I always try and guess before I meet someone. I'm like, I bet you they're like a projector. And sometimes you get it right and it's just fun. But anyway, your types also, I want to make it clear, it's like knowing your astrology sign. It's like saying I'm a Leo. It's like, cool, but it doesn't give you so much context. Like, don't get so hung up on your type. It's just the kind of sun. It's just the way that your energy is in the world, but it really doesn't determine anything. So don't get too hung up on the types. The first type is the manifester. And it's not that there's a sequence or an order or an importance order or anything like that. It's not anything to do with that. It's just the way that we are. It's basically our roles. These are, the roles in the world. So for a manifester, their strategy in life is to inform. So they're really like the pioneers. They're like the ones who come up with these ideas that are so profound, and they are there for us to respond to. So sometimes they come up with crazy cool ideas that are really, end up changing the world. For example, the person who channeled human design was a manifester. So they're really here to inform the world of really new ideas. And they're not self-theme. So the not self-theme is really a signature. It's a signature of your being that tells you are not in alignment with the truth of who you are. So if you are a manifester and you're feeling angry, that's not to say anger is a bad thing. It's a perfectly valid emotion, but it's like the general, it doesn't even have to be a moment of anger. I'm talking about the general theme of your life. If there's just anger or frustration or any kind of that theme that's like currently running through, then you're either not following your strategy and you're not following your authority. And we're going to get into the authority, because the 2 most important things for you to follow to really start living in your design is your strategy, to make sure you're really living it, and your authority, to really trust your authority, which is how you make decisions. So for manifestors, it's to inform. The not self theme is anger, and the signature true self theme, when you're really in alignment and living your design, is peace. It's just that overall feeling of peace. So manifestors are here to inform and initiate people into the frequency of transformation and bring new ideas to life. The second type is the generator. So the generator, this is the majority of the population. So that's 70%. As a manifesting generator, I also fall under this group, like where the generators are about 35%, manifesting generators are about 33%, but like generally we're the builders of the world. But the strategy for a generator is to respond. So they're really responding to the manifestors of the world and the things around them, and just the ideas and all the things around them. They're here to respond to life. And their not self-theme is satisfaction. Oh, sorry, I mixed those 2 up. The not self-theme is frustration, and the true self-theme is satisfaction. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're just like not feeling that true satisfaction, like with life, with everything in your life, relationships, work, that's when you're out of alignment. And so you're either not following your strategy or you're not following your authority. So generators are to respond to the world around them and follow their excitement. They are the builders and hustlers, here to respond to life and alchemize people into action and express through devotion. So you'll see a generator in their true power when they're just they're kind of just, they're flying. They're really devoted to whatever it is they're doing. They're hustlers, they're the builders, and they're full of energy. They're full of life, and they really generate like almost like a sun, right? They alchemize us into action. The manifesting generator, that's what I am. The strategy is to respond, then inform. So manifesting generators, I do say this, but I do feel like we have the most difficult kind of type and just design to decondition from, because there's so much nuances in our type. So to respond is like a generator. We're responding to the life around us, right? We're not here to be like a manifestor to inform, but we do have slight tendencies where we might actually fall into that. But we're really here to respond first and then inform. And so there are, the reason why I'm a manifesting generator is because my sacral is connected to my throat. So this is and you'll see when I go through the centers and how all this, but there's kind of reasons why I'm a manifesting generator compared to other generators who don't have their sacral connected to their throat, which is how we express, how we manifest, how we, inform. So there's a certain reasons why, I'm a manifesting generator. So I manifest and I express and I create actually through my throat, through my voice. And so, yeah, our not self theme is frustration. Sorry, those are mixed up again. Frustration, but it also can be anger too. So we can also experience a little bit of that manifestor anger. And the true self theme is satisfaction. But in my own experience, I truly do feel a bit of both, like frustration and satisfaction, but I also do feel anger. And when I'm truly fulfilled and satisfied with life, I also feel this deep sense of peace. And so, yeah. And really the real role of a manifesting generator is to actually bend time. It's really to speed up the quantum process. Like, we are just multi-passionate people and we move really quickly. Like when you're living in your design, like I don't know if this is actually a part of my design, but if you can relate, but when I journal, like my mind is moving so fast that my hand can't keep up. And so I sometimes, if I'm not in my true self theme, or if I'm making decisions that aren't in alignment, which doesn't happen anymore, but I tend to move too quickly, and actually a part of my, authority is to just slow down and ride the waves of my emotion so that I'm not moving so quickly that I'm missing steps and making mistakes that don't need to happen. And so this is where we can really start to come back to the truth of who we are and feel that satisfaction and peace. So yeah, we're really here to speed up the quantum process. The generators are here to alchemize us into action. So they really help us, they're really inspiring, and they alchemize us into action. Like their devotion, their commitment. It's just like, they make us want to act. They make us want to move. And then manifesting generators are here to really speed up the process and just bend time, speed up the process. They move quickly. And we're also really creative. So when we respond to the things around us and then we inform, there's so much creativity that can come from that, and innovation. We're really the innovators. So the third type is projector. Projectors are here to wait for the invitation. Now, there's a lot of misconception around projectors and waiting for the invitation. It doesn't mean that you just sit back and wait for people to invite you to things. That's not what it means. It's really about recognition. It's really about waiting to be recognized by someone and then responding to that. So it's really about waiting. Projectors are never here to initiate. They're never here to even respond to life around them, but they really just sit back. And this is because of their energy type. They really don't have the sacral motor that we have. And so as generators, and you'll start to understand this a bit more as I go through the energy centers, but that's why the stereotype is that they have no energy, but it's just not true. Most of my best friends are projectors. My partner's a projector, and he's an extremely hard worker. And but he's also very, very efficient. They're here to be super efficient. They are here to guide humanity and clear the vibration of the collective consciousness. So where the generators and the manifesting generators are here building and doing all the things, and they're super excited and passionate and all of these things, the projectors kind of sitting back, like they're the seers of the world. They see what's going on, and then they're like, hey, if you want to do this more efficiently, here's a better way. And so they are really those, they see the unseen. And it's really, really magical. So yeah, they're not self-theme. Again, I've got it the wrong way around. Sorry, guys. So not self-theme is bitterness. So they know if they're not in alignment, they are bitter. Like they are just not living their design. They're not waiting for the invitation. And then depending on their authority, whether they're an emotional or a mental or whatever authority they have, they will feel bitter. Their true self-theme is success. So they really need to have success in whatever it is they're doing. And I guess for everyone, that's going to look different, right? Like if I just think of my partner, success to him is just like being really efficient in everything that he does and then getting the result that he wants to get at the end. And they're just really good at having that success. Like, whereas as generators, we're not so focused on success. We're more focused on feeling satisfied on the journey. Whereas a projector doesn't really care about satisfaction so much. They just want to see the success, which is really cool, right? Because we're all here to guide and walk each other home. And this is how our types play these really important roles. And when we really know our role, it's like, you can just sit back and let life happen. And it's just like so cool, right? Like we just make each other better. So yeah, that's a projector. And the last one is the reflector. Now, the reflectors are like 1% of the population. They're super rare. And also they're amazing. They are the mirrors of the world. So they are here to mirror back to us the human condition and our human potential. So to be the barometer of humanity's alignment with the heart. So they are really here to be like, I see what y'all are all doing, the manifestors, the generators, the projectors, like I see what you're all doing. And here's my evaluation. And they're really here to reflect back to us. And their strategy is to wait for a lunar cycle. So that is 28 days. So for them to actually really live in alignment with who they are, they have to actually wait 28 days. Now, again, none of this is meant to feel limiting. The point of the 28 days is because a reflector has no conditioning. They have no defined centers is what I mean. So they are very prone to conditioning. They're very prone to lots of outside energy coming in and influencing them. And so the point of waiting for the 28 days to actually respond to life or give their feedback and just kind of just be in the world is to actually really wait for that deep knowingness. And again, if you're living super in alignment with your design and your environment really supports you in your design, you might not have to wait 28 days. Maybe you wait 2 days and you're like, I deeply know this is my next move, or this is what I want to share, or whatever it is, right? Like it's just about having that deep knowingness. But reflectors, because they're undefined in every single part of, most of their chart, the strategy is to wait. It's to really wait for that that feeling of, again, the not self theme is disappointment. The true self theme is surprise. So it's like they're really surprised and delighted, and that's how they feel when they're really living in alignment with their design. So yes, very cool. So now let's get into the authority. This is really how you make decisions. So if you forget everything that we share today, everything that I shared today, and it's just too much and too overwhelming for you right now, the two things that I want you to remember the most is your strategy and your authority. If you can bring everything back in your life to following your strategy and following your authority, I promise you'll start to make decisions that just feel more aligned with who you are. And the more you do it and the more you decondition, the more natural it's going to feel, and the more you're going to feel in your true self theme of satisfaction. And I'll give you some examples, especially of my authority. So these are the different types of authorities. You can have an emotional authority. You can have a sacral authority. You can have a splenic authority. You can have an ego authority, a G center authority, a mental authority, or no inner authority, which is really the reflectors. No one else can have no inner authority. So this is really why they have to wait 28 days. So this is where most of our conditioning starts to happen and where we start to make incorrect decisions in our life. Firstly, we may not be following our strategy, which is really, projectors tend to find this a lot. They're not sitting back and waiting to be recognized. They're not really owning their true magic and power. And they're not following their authority. So for emotional authorities, the key is to ride out the emotional waves. So for me, I am an emotional authority, and I really made myself wrong for this for a lot of my life. Yes, a lot of it had to do with my upbringing and my childhood, and the fact that emotions were just not acceptable and not spoken about, and just basically completely denied, rejected and disowned in my upbringing. So I really learned to suppress a lot of my emotions. And if a lot of your emotions are suppressed, it's going to be really hard to follow your authority. And so also making decisions based on the riding out of the emotional waves can be really difficult for people at the start, because they're like, okay, well, as a manifesting generator, I'm supposed to be lit up by what I'm doing. So if I'm super excited and lit up about something, then I should just go do it. Like, I should just go and do it right now. Except what happens is when you have really high highs, it can also mean that there's a really low low coming. And the idea of riding the emotional wave is to actually hold out, ride that high, ride the low. And then when you come to this place of kind of, what's the word I can use? Just no emotion, like just more kind of a neutrality. When you can come to this place of neutrality, and whatever it is that you're making a decision on still feels like good and correct and like the right, exciting and the right path for you, then you make the decision. Then you're like, yep, okay. So an example of this in my daily life was like, I used to attend a lot of events that I didn't want to go to. Someone would invite me to something and I'd be like, I'm really excited. And I'd just say, yeah, I'm going. And I made a lot of decisions, and I went to a lot of things out of just guilt and out of just sheer commitment to, not wanting to disappoint people. And people, lots of people will generalize, oh, you're a people pleaser. I'm like, I don't fully, we have to be really discerning here. Sometimes it's not about being a people pleaser. Sometimes it's really just you're not following your authority because for whatever reason, you're not trusting the high highs and the low lows and then coming to that, decision. And so while I may be really excited to go to something, when they invite me, it's like the next day I might be like, oh, no, actually, I really don't feel like it. But the key here is to ride the emotional wave. And then when I'm neutral, when I'm not feeling any type of way that's like high, high and low, low, then I can make a decision. And so the key for me was really waiting. And that was hard for me because I really wanted to, I lived a really fast-paced life, and I lived a very social life, especially when I was living in the corporate world. And so everything was just go, go, go. And I was not living my authority. I was not riding my emotional waves. And so naturally, it led to a nervous breakdown. So talk about frustration. It was like next level, like here, have a spiritual awakening so you can actually listen to, your authority. So that's emotional authority. Sacral authority is really that feeling of excitement. It's really just about being lit up. It's actually got nothing to do with emotions. It's just like, I just feel excited and I'm lit up, and it's just like, go. So sacrals are that. Splenic authority has a spleen center in your chart, which I'll show you soon. that's really about following that gut feeling. It's like instinctual. It's not really about excitement, but it's just like, I just have this gut feeling and it's an instinct. Like you just know it's correct for you. Ego authorities. So ego authority is only for manifestors and projectors. And it's really about kind of following your heart. That's the best way that you can put it. It's like that inner pull in your chest. The G center or identity authority is really only for projectors as well. And it's this kind of need to talk things out. It's just the need to talk things out with other people. So like kind of like that sounding board. The mental authority is also very similar. So this is only for projectors as well. So my partner's a mental projector. So he really does make decisions, whether they're kind of big or small. But remember, I want you guys to, you don't have to follow this for making every little decision in your life. If you want to make a sandwich, just make a freaking sandwich. Like this is not about, overthinking everything. This is really about for those kind of medium to bigger decisions. So anytime my partner is thinking about making some kind of medium or bigger decision, he'll always talk it out. And so like, this is how accurate these things are. Like the way that he processes information to come to a decision is so different to me. I actually don't want to talk to anybody about my decision. I need to really ride my emotional wave. So it's super accurate. And so the more that he can talk things out and have a sounding board with people, then he's going to make a decision that's correct for him. And then obviously the reflectors, they have no inner authority at all. That's why they need to wait the 28 days to really come to that place of deep knowingness. So your incarnation cross, this is also, I would say, this is really your incarnation cross, and the gates in these parts of your chart are about 70% of, they're going to be about 70% of your energy, your life force, just your soul purpose. Like, they're probably the most important parts of your chart. And when you start to live in alignment with these gates, and really you start to really move past the fears and triggers of your unconscious, and you start to amplify, and step into your gifts. And in these 4 gates, you start to really step into your soul's purpose in a whole nother magical way. So like I showed you guys, so this is the chart that you will see when you download your chart from any site. And we talked about the personality side, which is also called the mind side. It's this black side here. The black side is really your personality and your mind and who you think you are. And then the unconscious side, which is they call the body side as well, is your design side. It's really how you were designed. So your soul purpose and your incarnation cross, look, there's not a whole lot of information on the incarnation crosses. And there are many, many different types of incarnation crosses. There's I think 190 different types. So it really, really depends on your specific design. And you can find some information on Google about it. But it's more about really focusing on the deconditioning of the gates. So you have your conscious sun, which is this black one here, circled. The conscious earth, which is the one below it, and then your conscious sun and your unconscious earth. And so once you start to work with these 4, you really start to, and you decondition and you align and you start to amplify these kind of energetics about yourself, you really start to step into your soul's purpose. Now, I also want to make it clear, with your soul purpose, it's not about a specific path. You could be a lawyer, you could be a coach, you could be, a professional. It doesn't matter what path you're on, but as long as you have these kind of energetics right, and you're really offering your gifts to the world, which, each of these gates you can also call gifts. That's how I see them. The gates are really gifts. They're really what you have consistent energy in. And it's like, you don't have to actually try to offer these gifts. They are how you were designed. Like they are a part of who you are, and they are true gifts. And so, once I kind of go through the centers, you'll start to understand a little bit more, and go through the gates and channels. So the next part of your profile is also your chart is called the profile. And this is also really important. I think a really important part of your role in fulfilling your soul's purpose and really coming into alignment with the truth of who you are. Let me just check if there's any comments or anything. I'm a reflector. I love it and hate it. Okay, wow, Elle. Okay, so you're going to start to have some revelations around, you're going to start to have some revelations around really some of the just challenges maybe that you've had or thoughts that you've had. And so, yeah, super exciting. Okay, let's keep rolling. Present, that's what I want. So your profile is also another really important aspect of your chart because it's really the role that you're here to play. Your profile is based on the position of your personality, Sun, Earth, and your design, Sun, Earth, in the body graph. So it's basically exactly the same as your soul purpose, the conscious Earth, conscious Sun, unconscious Earth. And your role, the profile, is determined by these numbers. So this is a 1 and this is a 3, which is what I am. I'm a 1-3 emotional manifesting generator. So a simple way to think about your profile is that it reveals the needs of your mind, which is the conscious side of you, your personality, and your body, the unconscious side of you, that are necessary for fulfilling your karmic role in the world. Now, when you learn your profile, you're going to be like mind blown. This is like so who I am. It's like an archetype, right? It's like we can all relate to archetypes. And so your profile is really like your role, your archetype in the world. So line 1 is the investigator, which is me. I'm a 1-3, remember? So the investigator. So we really need to investigate the way life works. And so this is why I'm also obsessed with human design. I also, I'm obsessed with psychology and personal development and business. Like, I've researched these things to the absolute, I have to be, and remember, there's gifts in each of these profiles, and there's also shadows in each of these profiles. And when you know what your line is, what your lines are, and what your profile is, you can start to see where the shadows are. For example, I'm an investigator, and that's amazing. And I know a lot, but my shadow is that I can really get stuck in this research mode and feel like I'm just researching all the time, and I'm never actually acting. And so that's where the shadow is. So you got to know when it's time to step away from the research and the books and whatever it is, the investigating, and really just live life. So line 2 is the hermit. So this is my partner's a 2-4 profile, which is like, we're so different in a lot of ways, but this is where we all get to complement each other in so many beautiful ways. So line 2 is a hermit. So it's the need for alone time. They just need to be alone, to do whatever, to process things, to just be with themselves, whatever it is. They're the hermits. Line 3 is the martyr. So this is really the need to experiment. So as a 1-3, what I do, and if I look at my process in life, this is how I've always been. I investigate things, I research like a crazy mad person, and then I go and experiment, and then I go and actually live. And it's a real trial and error. The martyr, the line 3, is a real trial and error process. So, the 2 lines, okay, so the 2 lines, the 1, say whatever your profile is, if say I'm a 1-3, the 1 is really how you see yourself. It's the part that you kind of resonate with the most, that you kind of, it's like the more conscious part of us. The 3 is the unconscious part, right? The other number is the part how really the world views us, how others view us. And so the 2, it's really about marrying the 2 in a really healthy marriage. That's really what you want to do. So line 4 is the opportunist. So this is really the line 4, they say it's the opportunist, but this is really the community person. Line 4s are really all about community. They're all about networks, and they're all about creating opportunities within their network. And I see how my partner does this, like in his own life. And it's just, Yeah, it's so, I love it. Like, it's just, we have such different gifts, and he really is, he thrives in large networks, and he's really just a community person, and he doesn't have to try. So this is the thing, like when you really live in alignment with your design, you don't have to try to do anything. You just simply are these things, and they are your gifts. And then as you embody them more and more, the more that you bring value to others, and also, more satisfaction to your own life. So line 5 is the heretic. So passion for creating practical solutions. The line 5s are probably the people who get projected onto the most. They're really kind of the heroes. Like they really kind of challenge the status quo a lot. And so that is why their passion for creating practical solutions, yes, but they also are the ones that probably challenge the status quo the most, and people project onto them a lot. And so they have a kind of difficult role there. But when they step into their greatness and they really own it, it's like, wow, it's amazing. It's legendary. Line 6 is the role model. It is an example of embodied wisdom. And this is so true. I know a couple of 6 lines, and they really are just a pure embodiment of the wisdom that they have. And they are a role model, and they can be really, really amazing leaders. And so as long as they have the marriage of the 2 profiles, whatever their other line is, they really are here to be the role models for us to kind of follow in a way. So with the profiles, there's 3 different types of profiles. So obviously these are all the archetypes, right? These are all the archetypes. And each one has a kind of different purpose. So you either have a personal destiny. So these are the combinations of the profiles. So I'm a 1-3. My destiny is personal. So what that means is that I fulfill my own destiny by being absorbed in my own process. And when I first heard that, I kind of cringed, because I was like, ugh, like I already feel like I had a lot of shame around feeling selfish about following my true desires, about following my true purpose, especially when you come from a family that I came from that was, all about just following the path that you were, supposed to go on, and to not challenge the status quo, and to just, basically live for other people. That was really, really hard for me to reconcile. But knowing this about my profile, and knowing this about the way that I move through the world, it's really liberating, because it's like I give the most value, and I am the most satisfied when I'm truly just absorbed in my own process. And so we are the researchers, the foundation builders, and the figure it out yourselfers. So we're really here to create new karma. And that makes so much sense, because part of my soul's purpose is to really build a totally new legacy for my family and my lineage. So my personal destiny and my own process is really, really important for me to fulfill that. So those are the different also. So the 1-4s, the 2-4s, 2-5s, 3-5s, 3-6s, and 4-6s, they're all personal destiny people. They're all here to really go through their own process and then share that with the world, and create a new karma, create a totally new kind of future for themselves, and also lineage for themselves, whatever they leave behind, right? So a fixed fate person, this is also really rare. If you have a 4-1 profile, your karmic role is to actually be the bridge between the personal and the transpersonal destiny profiles. So your fixed nature is exactly the foundation and stability that the world needs. So sometimes, you might, if you are a 4-1, you might be like, oh, I get a lot of feedback that I'm super stubborn, that I won't budge, that I won't, adhere to other people's agendas, or like whatever. But your fixed fate is like it's fixed. Like you are super solid in what you need to do, and you act like a bridge, and your stability And the foundation that you have, like you're not easily swayed, is exactly what we need to be the bridge between both worlds. So you have a fixed fate. And that's not to say, again, if it feels limiting, that's not to say you can't create your own reality. That's not what it's saying. So yeah, remember, whenever this feels limiting, throw it out the door. This is all meant to be expansive. And the whole point of life is to expand on your journey. So the transpersonal destiny, there are only these 4 profiles, the 5 ones, the 5 twos, the 6 twos, and the 6 threes. So transpersonal destiny people, they really fulfill their destiny by playing a role in the lives of others. So you're here to spread the truths from the foundations that the personal destiny profiles have created. The 5th lines make them practical. So remember we said the practical, creating practical solutions. And the 6th line embodies their wisdom. So these are really the embodied wisdom role models. So they are really here to play a role by fulfilling fulfilling their destiny by playing a role in the lives of others. So that's not to say that, you know, again, we're using our emotional intelligence. It's not about being codependent. It's not about living for others, but the role that they play is really about, they're really here to kind of, I would say that they are the true leaders. Like they can lead in a whole other great way. So the body graph. Okay. This is going to be all of those, everything that I just shared. How's everyone feeling? Is this all sinking in? We've got a bit of time, so it's good. I'm going to try and move as fast as I can. Okay, I'll just keep going. Okay, the body graph. Now, this is really, really where the fun begins. So I'm going to take you through the energy centers, the gates, the channels, the circuitry, the planets, and the incarnation cross. Now, I can't go into every single gate and every single channel, obviously, but I'm going to take you through the basics so you understand what you're looking at when you're looking at your chart.